There are two types of disasters in my life. The small ones, like mismatched socks during client meetings, double booking a venue, or accidentally ordering 300 glow sticks instead of 30. And then, there are the big ones, like crashing a high-level corporate presentation in front of what I assume was a legion of tech overlords. Guess which one happened today? I slammed into the conference room with the grace of a dropped cymbal. The door rebounded off my knee, my coffee went airborne, and I stood there, half-winded, holding a stack of printed cue sheets meant for Studio B. This was not Studio B. This was a lot of suits. A massive holographic logo floated mid-air, Eidolon Inc. in clean chrome font, slowly rotating like it was judging me. A man in an obsidian suit turned to face me. He didn't flinch, didn't blink. He just said, calmly, "Is this a delivery?" There were at least 30 people in the room, the kind of people who made decisions that affected the fate of currencies. Or black holes. I couldn't tell. Oh, no, sorry. I glanced at the plaque beside the door. Wrong floor, wrong tower, maybe, wrong planet at this point. I'm looking for the auditorium, I added, because obviously they needed more reasons to stare at me. The man, him, the one with the voice like smoked silk, cocked his head ever so slightly. "You interrupted a fiscal presentation to the board of directors." His tone was neutral. That was the scariest part. No rage, no disdain, just interest, like I was a spreadsheet cell that just typed back. "And you're not calling security," I said, because that's how my brain works under pressure, poorly. The silence was deafening. Someone, a woman in navy pinstripes, stifled a laugh and immediately regretted it. Everyone else watched the man. "You're not security," I added helpfully. He stepped forward. The air shifted like it moved out of his way. He was tall, no, engineered, with hair that belonged in expensive shampoo commercials and cheekbones you could hang your self-esteem on. "You embarrassed me in front of the board," he said. "And you offered me coffee," I shot back without thinking. "Nerves, death wish, something like that." "You amused me," he replied. "That's rare, don't ruin it." Then, and I swear I'm not hallucinating, he handed me a business card. "Orien Vael, Department of Strategic Anomalies, Eidolon Inc." I stared. "This feels like a prank. Are there cameras?" He smiled. Barely. The kind of smile that said I've outlived empires. If this were a prank, you'd already be screaming. "Comforting," I muttered. "Meet me Monday at 10. Come to the 44th floor. He turned back to the room like I was already deleted from his buffer. "Wait, are you serious?" I asked, still frozen in the doorway. He didn't look back. "If you're not amusing then, I'll find someone who is—" I didn't remember how I got back to the elevator. I just remember the smell of burnt espresso and ego clinging to my clothes. Once inside, I stared at the card again. It felt too heavy for its size. The ink shimmered faintly like it was moving. I turned it over, blank, of course it was. The elevator doors hissed shut, and for a moment it felt like they hesitated, as if the building itself was laughing at me. I should have thrown that card in the trash. Instead, it's now living in my wallet, between my expired library card and a coupon for Thai food that I keep forgetting to use. Was this a corporate trap? Some weird HR test? A setup for a podcast called Girl Who Ruined Earnings Report Becomes Intern to Lucifer? Honestly, none of it made sense. But the part that really bothered me, he never asked my name. And yet, I felt like he already knew it. The elevator opened with a sound that was far too soft for something made of metal. I stepped into the lobby of Eidolon Inc. on Monday at precisely 9:58 a.m., because I figured showing up fashionably late to a possible summoning was a bad idea. And showing up early? That was for people with self-esteem and functional resumes. The lobby was unsettling, not because it was ugly, quite the opposite. It was too clean, too symmetrical. The marble floor reflected light that didn't seem to come from anywhere. The air smelled like obsidian and nothingness. There was no music, no receptionist, just a long minimalist desk, a massive blank wall, and a single man seated behind a screen that looked like it had been carved from liquid glass. He looked up, smiled politely, and blinked horizontally. "Miss Harper?" "Yes. That's me." My voice cracked like an old radio. "I'm Elian." He stood, moved like water, and gestured toward the elevator at the far end of the lobby. "Mr. Vael is expecting you, 44th floor. It knows you're coming." "It?" "The lift," he said, tone casual. "They don't open for just anyone." My shoes clicked loudly as I crossed the floor. Behind me, Elian added, "He doesn't usually choose people himself. You must have truly upset him. Is that good or bad?" "That's a question for another day." The doors opened to silence. Again. This time it wasn't empty, just hushed, like the whole space was holding its breath. The office was sleek, almost brutalist, in monochrome shades, black stone floors, ash-gray walls, sharp-edged glass dividers. Not a hint of personal decor, no framed photos, no messy pen cups, just a single piece of living green in the corner. A gnarled, bonsai-like tree in a curved pot, its leaves fluttering without wind. "Miss Harper." The voice was behind me now. I turned. Orien Vael stood in a doorway, one hand tucked in the pocket of a tailored jacket, the other holding a tablet that looked too thin to be real. Same obsidian suit, same glacial stare. But today he looked more awake, less CEO, more apex predator on a coffee break. "Thanks for not unleashing the hounds," I said, "or whatever your version of security is. Fire? Shadows? Ancient riddles?" He didn't laugh, but the corner of his mouth almost moved. "I considered letting the building sort you out, but it likes you. That's rare." "The building likes me?" He turned and walked back into his office, gesturing for me to follow. I hesitated only briefly, and then stepped in. It was colder here, not temperature-wise, just atmospherically. Everything was clean-lined, minimal, precise. A single massive desk obsidian slab sat beneath a circular ceiling light that cast no shadow. The bonsai in the corner had moved again. Now it tilted slightly in my direction, like it was listening. "Sit," Orien said, pointing to a chair across from his desk. I sat, slowly, trying not to squeak or spill or explode. "You're not a strategist," he said, skimming his tablet. "You don't have a finance background, no PR, no agency work. Thanks for reading my LinkedIn profile so I didn't have to." He looked up. "You're a stage manager." "Not just a stage manager," I said. "I'm a chaos-wrangling goddess of last-minute salvaging, costume changes, and people who think standing in the spotlight is a personality." That, finally, made him blink. "Exactly," he said. "Chaos wrangling." I narrowed my eyes. "Is this a weird way of offering me a job?" "Yes. Seriously? You caused disruption, publicly, during a moment of peak order, and you didn't flinch. That kind of energy is rarely contained. I don't know whether to say thank you or run screaming. Do neither. Just sign." He placed a contract on the desk. It wasn't printed. It looked handwritten, on parchment, real parchment. The letters shimmered faintly in ink that pulsed like it was alive. No logo, no watermark, just lines of text in a language I couldn't read, and one very clear signature line. My name was already printed beneath it. "Okay," I said slowly. "Is this art? Is this a prank?" "It's your offer, 1-year contract. You'll report to me directly. Title: Assistant to the Director of Strategic Anomalies. Compensation is competitive. Benefits: exceed federal standards. Does the tree do dental?" He didn't smile, again, but I swore the leaves rustled in amusement. "And if I don't sign? You walk away," he said, "and never come back. The building won't let you." "Right." I stared at the ink. "Is this made of squid? Please tell me it's not squid." He leaned back, fingers steepled. Would it matter? Okay, creepy answer. I picked up the pen he offered, long, black, heavier than it should be, and signed my name. The ink gleamed, the parchment shivered slightly, and then my ring finger burned, not painful exactly, more like touching a coin left in the sun. I glanced down. The thin silver ring I always wore, cheap, meaningless habit, had turned a deep shade of gold. I looked up at him. What was that? He smiled, a real smile. "Now you're mine," he said. "Excuse me?" In a professional sense, he added smoothly. Mostly, the building was silent again. I stood alone in the glass tube, staring at my reflection in the dark walls. My face looked the same, my body felt the same. But that ring still shimmered faintly, and I swore the elevator let out a contented sigh when I stepped inside. Behind me, Orien's voice echoed in my mind. "You amused me. That's rare. Don't ruin it." I should have walked away. But part of me, the part that craved backstage chaos, unpredictable tech cues, and last-minute changes, was already wondering what exactly I'd just signed up for, and why it felt like my entire life was about to shift. Not fall apart, just shift. The room they gave me was technically an office. I say technically because it had 4 walls, a desk, and a chair. But that was it. No computer, no windows. Just a mirror hanging at an odd angle above the desk. Slightly too high, slightly tilted, like someone wanted it to reflect something other than you. The chair creaked when I sat. The mirror didn't reflect me right away. Not kidding. For a good 2 seconds, my reflection lagged, just stood there, staring back with a slightly different expression, like it was thinking before I was. Then, with a blink, it caught up. "Welcome to Eidolon Inc., where the buildings breathe and the furniture judges. No onboarding, no HR presentation, just a digital schedule beamed to my phone with the words, 9 a.m., observe, 2 p.m., continue observing, 6 p.m., try not to get lost." At 10, I decided to find the cafeteria. I took the elevator. It didn't take me where I asked. Instead of floor 7, where the app said the cafeteria was, I ended up on floor 6-1/2. Yes, half. The doors opened with a shpee, and I stepped into a hallway with ceilings a little too low and walls a little too curved. The lighting here buzzed faintly, like fluorescent lights having an argument. I followed the sound of voices and found myself in a gleaming open space that looked like a luxury lounge had mated with a spaceship. The food counters shimmered with options that changed depending on where you stood. I reached for a sandwich, and it turned into a bowl of creamy mushroom risotto. I blinked. Someone beside me snorted. "You must be new." I turned. The woman was blonde, sharp-featured, dressed in a suit that probably cost more than my rent. She smiled without warmth. "I'm Cindy." Of course." "Hi," I said carefully. "I'm Issa, assistant to the, Director of Strategic Anomalies. That's not a real department." I opened my mouth, then closed it again. "Don't worry," she continued. "You're not the first girl who's tried to flirt her way into Mr. Vael's office." "Flirt?" I laughed. "Honey, if I flirted, there'd be glitter involved." Her smile thinned. "Just be careful. He burns through assistants. That might have been a warning. Or a threat. Hard to tell with women like Cindy." She walked off before I could decide which. The risotto, by the way, tasted like my childhood kitchen, which was impossible since my mom never cooked anything but microwaved regret. By noon, I started noticing things. The walls hummed faintly when you got too close. The air vents sometimes sighed like they were disappointed in you. One hallway had a door that only opened when I stopped trying to open it, and every time I stepped out of line, metaphorically or physically, the ring on my finger pulsed with warmth. Once, I refused to sit during a meeting where Orien was speaking. My ring burned hot until I lowered myself into the chair. Another time, I tried ignoring a message from him. The ring buzzed until I looked at it. I didn't say anything, yet. But I was definitely saying something internally, like, I think I signed a magical contract with a corporate demon lord, and now I'm being stalked by my own jewelry. You know. Normal first-week thoughts. That evening, I stayed late to explore. That was a lie. I got lost. Eidolon Inc. had more floors than the elevator claimed. Some levels were tucked between others, like architectural afterthoughts. I ended up on floor 23B, which wasn't on any map. There I met Mr. Morn. He was sitting in a room filled with floating black orbs. Each one whispered, not loudly, not in words I understood, but definitely whispered. Curiosity is a dangerous gift, he said without looking up. I'm starting to get that vibe, yeah. Don't listen too long. They remember, who does? He looked at me. His eyes were black, not dark, black, as if someone had scooped out the color and replaced it with ink. The ones who made the contracts, the elevator doors opened just as I was about to head out for the night. And there he was, Orien. Still perfect, still unreadable. This time with his sleeves rolled slightly up, revealing sharp forearms and veins like etched silver. He looked less like a CEO and more like a dark god on his smoke break. You're following me, I said. I live here. Oh, of course you do. You also live here now. I blinked. What? Top floor. Temporary housing. Contract clause 34. Didn't you read it? There was ink that moved, Orien. No one reads that. He stepped into the elevator beside me. The doors closed. I leaned against the mirrored wall. So what, you always stalk your employees in confined glass boxes? I could ask the same. I'm not stalking you. You appeared in 3 places today where I already was. That's because you're everywhere, I snapped. It's like working with a particularly well-dressed virus. He tilted his head. You're adapting to what? Yet, the elevator stopped. The lights dimmed briefly. I swore I heard a laugh in the hum of the ceiling. We didn't move. Orien looked at me. You should sleep, he said. That a command? A suggestion. For your health. I crossed my arms. You care about my health now? He didn't answer. The elevator started again. When the doors opened to my new apartment, because yes, it was mine now apparently, he added one last thing before turning to leave. You need to be precise, Issa. Why? Because, he said softly, you can't harness chaos if you don't know where the edge is. Then he was gone, and I was left in the doorway, ring warm on my finger, wondering if I was the one being shaped, or if I was shaping something far more dangerous than I realized. It wasn't a request. It was never a request with Orien. You're coming with me, he said, sliding a thin folder across my desk. Strategy Summit, external site. 2 days. I didn't open the folder, I just raised an eyebrow. Why me? Because the board wants someone who makes them nervous. He looked almost amused. You're good at that. I should have said no, or asked about the dress code, or the fact that I still didn't know if I was working in a government-adjacent think tank or the administrative wing of hell. Instead, I packed. The company's retreat house was a brutalist modern cabin 3 hours outside the city, nestled in pines and frost. Glass walls, steel beams, exposed wood so smooth it looked grown, not built. And 1 bedroom, with 2 beds, which became 1, sometime after dinner, without comment. I found him in the kitchen that night, barefoot, sleeves rolled up, slicing a pomegranate like it was a negotiation. This place is too quiet, I muttered, leaning against the counter. He glanced at me. You're uncomfortable. No, I'm creeped out. He smirked. Same thing. We went over presentation flow and voice modulation for 2 hours. He corrected everything. My pace, my breathing, the way I blinked mid-sentence. You project confidence, but you leak uncertainty between the words, he said, stepping close, placing 2 fingers just under my chin. Control that. His touch was light, measured, but the ring on my finger burned. You're doing that on purpose, I snapped. I'm not, he said evenly. The contract is responding. You're slipping. To what? To the pull. That night I tried to sleep. The single bed was massive, like someone thought intimacy meant square footage. He lay beside me, unmoving, half-shadowed by moonlight through the glass. I thought he was asleep. I was wrong. His hand touched my wrist, warm, then burning. My eyes opened just as he rolled to face me, his face inches from mine. Stop, I said, not loud, not afraid, not yet. It's the contract, he murmured. It's awake, that doesn't give you the right. I'm not taking anything, he interrupted, voice low, dangerous. You gave it. When you signed, when you accepted the bond. I jerked away, but my body didn't respond the way it should have. Not fully. The heat in my skin wasn't just the ring anymore. It spread, under my ribs, through my spine, twisting something loose. You enchanted me. No, he said. I bound you. That's different. And then he kissed me. It wasn't tender. It wasn't gentle. But it wasn't violent either. Not in the traditional way. It was something else. Like the room shifted around the act. Like gravity turned inward. Like the kiss wasn't on my lips but in me. And God's help me, my body answered, not out of consent, but recognition. Something ancient. Something below reason. When it ended, we were tangled in the sheets, his skin hot against mine, his hand over my heart like it belonged there. I didn't speak. Neither did he. Later, I sat on the edge of the bed, blanket around me like armor. You didn't ask, I said. I didn't need to, he replied calmly from the shadows. You think that makes it better? I think, he said, you still don't understand what you are to this place. To me, oh, don't give me the chosen one speech, I hissed. I signed a contract. I didn't sign me, he stood, walked toward me slowly. You're chaos, Issa, beautiful, unrefined, catalytic chaos. You walk into structure and it bends. That's what the bond recognized. That's why I couldn't ignore you. You mean that's why you used me? He stopped. For once his expression faltered. I haven't felt anything in centuries, he said softly, until you. I looked away. My hands trembled. He reached out, fingers brushing mine. The ring flared, soft this time. Warm. I don't know what's happening to me either, he whispered. You're not supposed to feel, are you? No, he said. And neither are you. We didn't speak again that night. I didn't sleep. I stared at the window as the woods beyond creaked and swayed, my reflection barely visible in the glass. But in that reflection, I wasn't alone. Orien's shadow was behind me, and though he wasn't touching me then, I still felt like I belonged to something I didn't choose. I thought contracts ended when you broke them. Turns out this one breaks you first. The ritual room wasn't on the map. To get there, Orien led me through a corridor behind a corridor, the kind of path that felt like it shouldn't exist but did anyway. The air got colder, older. Walls turned from glass to smooth stone. Quiet symbols lined the corners of the ceiling, none of them familiar. And then, the door. It looked carved from obsidian, veined with red gold light, pulsing like it had a heartbeat. He placed his hand on it, its side open. Inside, stone floors, mosaic walls, a domed ceiling inked with constellations I didn't recognize. The room hummed with the same energy as the ring on my hand. Subtle, ever-present, wrong. Sit, he said, motioning to the circle etched in the center of the room. No thanks, I replied. I already regretted the first circle I stepped into. This isn't a trap, right, because you're big on consent. His jaw tightened, the first crack in his usual composure. I brought you here to explain, not to command. I hesitated, then stepped forward and sat. The moment I crossed the circle, I felt it, a subtle pull, like the gravity of the space shifted to acknowledge me. Orien stood across from me, hands folded, his expression unreadable. You asked what the contract means. No, I demanded to know. Fine, then I'll give you the truth. He raised one hand. The ring on my finger flared, a sudden golden flash. Between us, symbols lifted from the floor like smoke, hanging in the air, circling, shifting. This is a binding pact, not just employment, not a metaphor. You're tied to me, Issa, body, will, energy. My breath caught. For how long? Until I die, he said. Or until you become stronger than me. Silence. Then I laughed, bitter, sharp. Oh, that's easy. Just overpower a demon in a three-piece suit who probably drinks stars for breakfast. He tilted his head. Sarcasm doesn't cancel the truth. I want out, you can't, I will. He stepped into the circle. I stood. We were eye to eye. If you continue to fight the bond, he said, voice low, it will fight back. The ring will burn. Your will won't be enough. You need control. You mean obedience. No. His voice softened oddly. I mean knowledge. Later, I found myself in Mr. Morn's archive. He didn't look surprised. I need to learn, I told him, before something inside me turns into something I don't recognize. He nodded. Good. Because it already is. The room was darker than usual. The black orbs that floated near him buzzed as I passed. One of them pulsed when I reached for a book. It opened itself. Pages flipped, symbols danced, diagrams glowed. I spent hours there, days maybe, time blurred inside Eidolon. But I learned. I learned how the bond worked, how the signature had tethered not just my magic but myself, how demons like Orien used these contracts to extend their control, to anchor themselves in the human world. But I also learned something else. The bond worked both ways. If I focused, I could influence it, push back, redirect, not break it, not yet, but bend it. That was becoming its own kind of thrill. Of course, life doesn't pause just because you're halfway to magical emancipation. Friendly, warm smile, casual suits, way too smooth. He said he was new to facilities but ended up at the same lunch counter as me 4 times in 1 week. Coincidence? Sure. The 5th time, I didn't even pretend. Do I have a stalker? I asked, or are you just into emotionally unstable women with suspicious jewelry? He grinned. Guilty of the second one. But the first's a bonus. We sat. He was easy to talk to, too easy. He asked about Orien, casually, carefully, like he was digging without a shovel. And part of me answered, because part of me wanted someone normal, someone who didn't glow faintly in the dark, someone who kissed because he wanted to, not because a contract hummed through his blood. Mike didn't ask to kiss me, but I let him. It was simple, human, and when I got back to my office, my ring seared my hand, not burned, seared. I yelped and ripped it off, and there was Orien, standing by my desk, arms folded, eyes dark like winter storms. You left the building, he said. You don't own me, I own the bond. Same difference. He stepped forward. Not fast, but purposeful. You kissed him. You watched. I felt it. That stopped me. You felt it? His eyes flicked to the side. Briefly, and then, his voice changed, colder. You're not made for mortals, Issa. They'll never understand what's changing inside you. You mean what you changed? You think I want this? His tone held something unfamiliar. Loss. I was content, controlled. You're unraveling things I've buried for centuries. I shook my head. You think I care? You used me. You bound me. And now you're jealous because someone touched me without magic in their bloodstream? He stared. I expected anger, but he only said quietly, I am not afraid of Mike. I'm afraid of what you'll become with him. And I stood there, ring clutched in my hand, not sure if I wanted to scream or chase after him. Mike asked me to meet him after hours, just for a drink, he said. Someplace the walls don't whisper. I should have known. But I was tired of secrets, of shadows, of rings that burned when I kissed someone and rooms that rearranged themselves when I spoke too loudly. So I said yes. We met in a quiet bar 5 blocks from Eidolon. It looked normal, ordinary, like the kind of place that played slow jazz and didn't care who you worked for. I ordered a drink. He didn't. That should have been clue number 2. The third came when he pulled out an envelope and slid it across the table. What's this? I asked, but my hand was already reaching for it. Inside, photographs. The first one looked like Orien, sort of. Same face, same posture, but everything else was wrong. His eyes were fire, his skin cracked with glowing lines, like a broken marble statue lit from within. Horns, thin, sharp, spiraling, rose from his temples, wings stretched behind him like shadows trying to escape his spine. A demon, not a metaphor, not a poetic exaggeration, a literal one. Where did you get these? I asked, voice low, heart sprinting. They were taken a century ago, said a voice behind me. I turned. A man in a navy suit stood there. Younger than Orien, prettier maybe. But his smile was the kind that came with poison. Orien Vael, he said, offering a hand I didn't take. Orien's brother. Technically, we share a maker, he said, sitting across from me without asking. But not an ideology. And what ideology is that? I asked. Kidnap humans, trick them into contracts, kiss them without consent. His smile widened. So he has touched you. I stood. If you wanted to gossip, you could have joined HR, but Mike was blocking the door now. Damian sighed. I'm not your enemy, Issa. I'm your escape. You set me up, I set you free. You have no idea what you've bonded yourself to. I've seen enough? No, he said. You've seen the mask. Not the monster. I ran, out of the bar, down 2 streets, through the haze of traffic and panic and memory. I didn't stop until I reached the building. Eidolon didn't open its doors for me right away. I had to beg. When I finally got inside, I didn't take the elevator. I climbed. Orien was at his desk, calm, composed, cold, as always. Until I threw the photos onto the table, he didn't react. You knew, I said. You knew I didn't know, and you let me fall into this. Into you. His fingers brushed one of the photos, gently. I wasn't hiding, he said. I just didn't show you everything, because you knew I'd run, wouldn't you? I stared at him. All this time, you used me, no. His voice cracked, just slightly. I didn't know. I didn't expect you to change anything. That's convenient. Issa, I needed honesty, I snapped, not half-truths wrapped in suits and seduction. I needed choice. You had choice. I never had choice. Not from the moment I signed that ink that moved. Not from the moment the elevator decided I was worth keeping. He stood. I stepped back. I won't hurt you, he said. I don't believe you. Silence. Then he said softly, I should have stayed a shadow, but you made me want the light. Tears pricked my eyes. I hated them. I hated him for causing them. I pulled the ring from my hand. It burned. My fingers shook as I dropped it on the table. I'm done. The moment I crossed the threshold of his office, I felt it, the bond, snapping. Not fully, but enough. It clawed through me, a ripping sensation across the chest, like someone had reached in and pulled something unnamed from my ribs. I collapsed against the elevator wall, breath gone, pulse thunderous. Somewhere far above, I knew he felt it too. In his office, Orien stood very still. His skin, normally radiant, smooth, dimmed, faded. He reached for the ring but didn't touch it. Instead, he sat. For the first time since I met him, he looked small, not powerless, but lonely, like something vast had collapsed inwards. Outside, the lights in the office flickered. Inside, he whispered my name, once, quietly, like a prayer not meant to be answered. I didn't go back right away. I wandered, sat in parks, slept on a friend's couch, ate food that tasted like ash. I tried to remind myself who I'd been before Orien Vael walked into my life like a perfectly tailored hurricane. It didn't work. The ring was gone, but the ache wasn't. Not physical, not magical, just him. The space he left inside me didn't feel empty. It felt paused, as if the rest of my life was waiting on a decision I hadn't made yet. So I went back to the archive. Mr. Morn didn't look surprised. He led me deeper than usual, behind shelves that shifted like mist. We stopped at a stone pedestal covered in dust and time. On it, a single book bound in cracked leather. This is what you seek, he said. I opened it. Inside, a chapter handwritten in precise silver ink, The Myth of Emotionless Immortals, on the Curse of Feeling Among Demons. I read, and the truth crushed me. Demons are not built to love. The moment they truly feel, their essence begins to collapse, not in a bang, but in a slow unraveling. Magic bleeds from them. Their immortality rusts. Most never reach that threshold. But if they do, it's irreversible. Love kills them. And yet, he'd chosen it. Not on purpose. But with every word, every glance, every stupid little moment when he didn't shut me out, he'd let himself feel. And I had run. It was raining when I returned to Eidolon. The building let me in without hesitation. No creaking, no challenge, no burn from the ring. Because there was no ring now. Just me, just my own will. The elevator doors opened to the 44th floor. The lights were dim. Orien's office was dark except for the city skyline glowing through the windows. Cold blues, neon reds, flickers of life that made the room feel even more still. He sat at his desk, a cold cup of coffee beside him. He didn't move when I entered, didn't look up. "Security would fire you," he said. "For unauthorized re-entry, I let myself in. That's even worse." "I read about the curse," I said. No response. "I know what happens to demons who feel, who love." His shoulders tensed. I stepped closer, "And I know now that you were dying. That got him." Slowly he looked up. His face was pale, not in a human way, in a dimmed kind of way, like a sun that had forgotten how to rise. His skin had lost its sheen. His eyes, once starlit, were dull. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "You chose death," I whispered. "For me." He didn't answer, and I realized he thought it was too late, that I'd come back only to say goodbye. But I hadn't, not this time. I stepped closer, reached into my coat, pulled out the contract, the same one I'd signed, the one he said couldn't be undone. I'd stolen it from the archive, reconstructed it from memory and magic. And this time, the ink waited. "I'm choosing it now," I said. "No tricks, no illusions, no bindings, just choice." "Why?" he asked. "Because chaos doesn't exist without something solid to break against," I said, voice shaking. "And you're the one who didn't fall apart when I did." He stood, unsteady, as if his body no longer obeyed like it used to. I crossed the room, took his hand, placed the ring, newly forged, onto my finger. It shimmered, a soft glow, not pain, not heat, just warmth. And in that moment, the office shifted, the lights flickered. The bonsai tree in the corner bloomed, white blossoms where there had been none. The contract shimmered. I signed, by my hand. His eyes met mine, wide, disbelieving. "Do you accept?" I asked softly. He didn't speak. He stepped forward instead, cupped my face, and kissed me. Not because the magic demanded it, because he wanted to. The kiss didn't feel like fire or storms or chaos. It felt like peace, not the absence of pain, but the presence of understanding, of forgiveness, of everything we'd refused to admit. When he pulled back, his smile was real, not sharp, not calculated, just human. "You came back," he said. "I never really left." His forehead leaned against mine. "I'm still a demon," he whispered. "I'm still chaos." He smiled wider. "Then we deserve each other," the city roared below. But in that room, in that quiet, impossible moment, the universe finally stopped resisting us and let us be. The plaque on the frosted glass door read, "Department of Improvised Strategy Lead, Issa Harper Executive Oversight, Orien Vael." It was my idea. The name, I mean. Orien hadn't even blinked when I suggested it, just arched one elegant brow and said, "Improvised? That sounds dangerously unpredictable." "Exactly," I replied. Now I stood at the head of a long obsidian conference table in a power suit that made me feel like I ran the world, which, in a way, I kind of did. "Okay," I said to the slightly terrified cluster of department heads in the room. "We're going to tear up the current rollout plan and do something that doesn't bore the astral planes into non-existence." "Suggestions?" Silence. Then one brave soul raised their hand. "Crowdsourced chaos events?" I grinned. "Now we're getting somewhere." Orien was sitting to my right, unusually quiet, dark suit crisp, one arm resting over the back of my chair. Not possessive. Just there, constant, grounding. He didn't need to speak much these days. That's what I was for. After the meeting adjourned, I leaned back and looked at him. "Well?" I asked. He tilted his head. "You've turned my entire department into an improv cult. Flattering. You now have 5 direct reports and 3 unofficial worshippers. They're interns. They'll get over it," a beat passed. Then he asked, quieter, "You're my voice now?" I met his eyes. "No. I'm the one who won't let you stay silent." His smile bloomed slowly, warm and wicked. "Then speak louder," he murmured, leaning in, "and kiss me more often." I did both. The city shimmered beyond the glass, and somewhere deep in the bones of Eidolon Inc., the building purred,